This is case D10-427302D, the Conn matter. Counsel, your appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michelle Roberts, bar number 9168, on behalf of the plaintiff, Danielle Conn, now known as Danielle Skaggs, who is present.
And sir, your name for the record?
Devin Conn.
Okay, this is the time set for the evidentiary hearing. You ready to proceed, Ms. Roberts?
I am.
And sir, you ready to proceed?
No, sir. I had a problem with my lawyer, and I have to get a new lawyer, as well as I didn't do any of my paperwork that was mandatory.
Well,
So
yeah,
I was
you
wondering if I
did.
could get a continuance.
No, you can't.
No.
No. Let's get both parties to raise your right hands.
Raise your right hand, sir. You and each of you do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You wish to make an opening statement?
No, Your Honor, I'll wait until closing statement. I know we have.
Sir, did you wish to make an opening statement?
No, sir.
All right. First witness, Ms.
It will be Danielle Skaggs.
Come forward, ma'am. Come forward and have a seat. Have a seat, sir. Go ahead, counsel.
Can you please state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Danielle Nicole Skaggs, DANYELLE NIKOLLE
And you're the plaintiff in this matter, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you and the defendant, Devin Conn, were married, and you guys are now divorced, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you divorce?
June of 2010.
And you and Devin have one child?
Yes.
And what is his name and age?
Dylan Matthew Conn, age 8,
Okay, and what's his date of birth?
4/28/07.
And what is the current timeshare you and Dad are exercising?
The one that was appointed to us when we last went to court, I have Dylan from Sunday night until Friday afternoon, and he has him from Friday afternoon till Sunday night.
And does that order from 2012 designate you as the primary physical custodian?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you been exercising that timeshare since 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe it is in Dylan's best interest that you maintain primary physical custody?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are the reasons you believe that?
I've had primary custody for quite a while now. I help him with his schoolwork. I take care of him mainly during the week.
And do you work?
I do.
And what hours do you work?
I work solely when he is with his father. I work Friday nights and Saturday morning till night, and then Sunday morning till night.
So you work explicitly when he's with his father?
Yes, ma'am.
And does Dad work?
Yes.
And what does Dad do?
He is a security guard.
And do you know what his hours are?
I do believe from 4 at night till midnight,
And do you
Monday
know
through Friday.
And does Dylan have any medical or health issues?
Not at the moment.
And where does Dylan currently attend school?
He was going to school at Jim Thorpe Elementary School in Henderson.
Okay, and since we're on summer break now, what grade did he just finish?
Second.
And how were his grades?
He had 5 B's and 2 C's.
And who helps Dylan with his homework?
I do.
And does Dylan ever have homework on the weekends?
None that I know of.
So school doesn't assign any homework on Fridays to be done by Monday?
As far as I know, no.
Is Dylan involved in any extracurricular activities?
He's in Boy Scouts.
And how long has he been in Boy Scouts?
2 years now.
And do you attend his activities?
I do.
Is that the only thing he's in is Boy Scouts?
Yes.
And does Dad attend his activities?
He does not.
And when does Dylan have Boy Scouts?
Wednesday nights. Sometimes when we switched pack, they went to Monday nights.
Okay. And so part of the reason
So
his dad
yes,
is
the reason why because he works during the meetings.
Okay. Are there any activities for Boy Scouts over the weekends?
They do have sometimes they do have stuff where they have to go seas and stuff on the weekends, yes.
And has Dad taken Dylan to any of those
No.
activities? you're currently remarried, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is your husband's name?
William Justin Skaggs.
Okay, and how long have you been married?
1.5 years. We got married November 10th, 2013.
And your husband is currently in the military?
Yes, ma'am.
And since you've been married, have you and your husband been able to live together?
No.
So since the marriage, you've had two separate households?
Yes.
Where has he been deployed when you first got married?
When we first got married, he was stationed in Italy.
And has he always been stationed in Italy?
No, he served 1 year tour in Korea and then the 2 years in Italy.
And where is he currently stationed now?
Hill Air Force Base in Utah.
And when did he get transferred there?
March. He had to sign in March of this year.
Now, does your husband have a relationship with with his stepson?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And how often does he see him?
Whenever he's home, he spends whatever time he can with him whenever he comes to visit.
And how often is that since you were married?
Since we were married, he was stationed in Italy, so for him to be able to come home, it was hard. But as soon as he's been back, he spent 1.5 months here, and then since he's been stationed at Utah, he comes down on the weekends.
Now, when your husband is home, does he attend any of the Boy Scout activities?
Yes, he does.
For the record, he's been at Hill since March of this year.
Yes.
And how often has he attended those activities?
Whenever he's home, if there's a meeting that falls when he's here, he'll take him. So he's been to at least 4 or 5.
And how many events or activities has Dad gone to?
He's gone to the just his recent graduation,
And when was that?
June 6th of this year.
And that's a Boy Scouts graduation?
Yes.
And is that
The
the?
bridging over.
And Dad attended that after this litigation started?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to that, did Dad attend any activities?
No.
Are there any parent-teacher conferences for Dylan?
When needed, yes. Sometimes he'd be acting up in class, or if his grades were slipping, we would get help or counseling from the teacher.
And who normally attends those?
I did.
Was Dad ever asked to attend?
He knew about them?
Did he go?
No.
And you're currently requesting that this court grant your request to relocate to Utah near Hill Air Force Base. Is
Yes,
that correct?
ma'am.
And do you have a residence set up in Utah?
Yes, ma'am.
And where is it located?
Clinton, Utah.
And do you know what the address is?
2048 North 950 West. Clinton, Utah 84015.
And can you describe, is it a house or?
It's a house.
Okay. And you're leasing it?
Yes.
And can you describe the square footage of the house?
The house is 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,120 square feet.
Okay, and what about the size of the entire home with the yard?
Sits on over 9,500 square feet of land.
So you have a pretty big backyard.
Yes, ma'am.
Has Dylan visited, have you and Dylan been up to the house yet?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you go up there?
We went a few months, as soon as summer set out. It was right after the graduation. We went up for a couple of days.
Your Honor, I have 2 photos that were missing from our photos of the neighborhood and the house. I hand one over to defendant if you like to take a look at it. And may I approach my witness? And then, do you see these 2 photos?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
Can you tell me what those photos are?
This is the photo of the front of the house when we first pulled up. Dylan got excited and wanted to take a picture of it. And this is the photo of Dylan throwing the ball in our backyard to one of our dogs, Ryder.
And this is the house up in Utah?
Yes, ma'am.
I would request that, I don't know if defendant has any objections, but I would request that this be admitted as part of our exhibit. photos of the neighborhood, photos, exhibit 5. So we could make it a 5A or 5B.
Included in 5 altogether.
Okay. Should I get, do you need 2 copies? Now, have you looked into any, the school that Dylan would be attending if you were allowed to relocate?
Yes, ma'am, I called them. He would be going to Fremont Elementary School.
Okay, and where is that located from where your house is?
It's 1.2 miles.
And how would Dylan get to school?
I would either drive him or we could walk.
And if you and Dylan were allowed to relocate to Utah, would Dylan still be participating in his Boy Scout activities?
Absolutely. We very much so enjoy Boy Scouts together.
And what have you learned about the school that you're attending, or that he's attending?
It's a 5-star rated school. When I spoke to the lady on the phone, she was excited that they were getting another 3rd grader because they only have about 30 to 32 in the entire school. If you are zoned for that school, you're in a 1.5 mile radius from it, so it's very low populated. They have before and after school programs. The after school programs include not only homework help, but tutoring for students who need extra help in whatever they need help in.
And so what would the teacher-student ratio be then for the 3rd graders?
I do believe she said there was only 17 or 18 students per 3rd grade class.
And do you know what the teacher ratio would be for if he went to school here in Las Vegas?
I do not know. They changed Jim Thorpe to a year-round school. So I have no idea, but his classroom was pretty big for 2nd grade.
Okay, do you know how many students?
I think 33.
And how do you believe it would benefit you and Dylan to move to Utah?
We would be able to be a family with my husband. He would have lots of fun out there, a lot of outdoor activities that he can be a part of.
Would it benefit you financially?
Yes, ma'am, it would definitely benefit us as a family financially.
And would you be required to work if you moved up there?
No, not at all.
But have you considered are you considering working at all?
There's a possibility if I choose to get a part-time job, but if I do decide to get a part-time job, it would solely be during when Dylan is in school.
And if you were allowed to move, would you comply with a visitation order that would be set by the court?
Yes, ma'am.
And currently, what are you offering Dad as a visitation schedule?
Every spring break, the entire summer minus the first and the last week, every other Thanksgiving, and 1 week out of the winter break alternating Christmas.
Christmas and New Year's.
Yes.
And you currently have family that lives here in Las Vegas, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And who do you have that lives here in Las Vegas?
I have my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my aunts, and my dad.
And do you believe you would be taking trips down here to visit with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you do, would you be offering Dad time to see Dylan?
Yes.
And have you looked into the distance between where you're living in Clinton compared to Las Vegas, what the distance would be?
2 and 3. It's about 470 miles from Henderson to Clinton. Midway would be Beaver, Utah.
And have you looked into travel costs for,
Yes, if I were to send Dylan on a flight, the Alaskan Airlines, their flights are usually around $80 to $90 with a $25 unaccompanied minor fee.
and is that one way, 89?
One way, yes.
And is this something that you would be financially able to spend the money to make sure that Dylan gets to Las Vegas to
Yes, ma'am.
visit Dad? And you understand that you would be paying for all those
Absolutely.
required visitations?
Yes, ma'am.
And as primary physical custodian, you're seeking child support from Dad, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to today, has Dad been paying any child support?
No.
Do you have any concerns about if, we're also here on Dad's request for primary because you're requesting to locate. Do you have any concerns about Dad having primary physical custody?
I do.
And what are they?
His work schedule is he works from 4 to midnight. Where would Dylan be after school, or would he be living with his grandparents, who would be taking him to work in the morning? Would he be picked up at midnight just to go to school the next morning? If he's going to be able to attend any of his Boy Scout meetings, if he would still be allowed to attend?
And is this something that Dylan wants to pursue?
Yes, ma'am.
And he wants to continue with Boy Scouts?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any other concerns about Dad having primary custody?
A few.
What are they?
His anger and what I've heard he has done in front of our son with the domestic violence.
What do, in our motion or in our in one of our pleadings in our reply, we addressed the issue of a domestic charge that Dad had for 2015. Do you know?
If you're going to ask questions that require her to answer with hearsay based on the last statement that she just made, I'd advise you not even to pursue it.
Do you know what the outcome of that domestic violence?
I do not know the actual outcome. From what I could read on public record, it said he pled down to disorderly conduct.
Okay, so you just know what you read from the Register of Actions?
Yes.
And that would be Exhibit 10. Let me show you this, Exhibit 10. Take a look at this.
That's what I read, yes. And that he has to attend class.
All right, thank you. You have questions for the witness, counsel?
Not as far as that. I would like to have Exhibit 10 admitted into evidence. Actually, I don't think there was any objections to any of our exhibits being admitted.
Well, do you wish to move for the admission of all of the exhibits?
I do, Your Honor.
Any objection to the admission of the exhibits, sir?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the plaintiff's exhibits are admitted. Okay, counsel, anything else? I believe you've met your good faith basis and addressed the actual advantage for both the mother and the child. Anything else remaining, any questions remaining regarding the Schwartz factors? Quality of life, her motive, her compliance, the dad's opposition, or adequate alternate visitation. I think you've addressed those fairly well.
Are you moving to interfere with Dad's visitation?
Not at all.
And I believe I asked you before, you're willing to comply with any orders at the...
Absolutely. I'm not trying to keep him from seeing his son. I would never do that. It would just be different visitation, that's all.
And your motives are honorable. You want to be able to live with your husband as a family?
As a family, we can expand our family.
And let me see here. believe I covered the Schwartz factors.
All right, Mr. Conn, do you have any questions for the witness? No, sir?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Skaggs. You can return and sit with your attorney. Mr. Conn, do you have any witnesses you wish to call at this time? Do you wish to testify on your own behalf?
I guess I'll testify on my own behalf.
You can do so from the table there where you're seated. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I know that I've always been there for my son for 8 years. And as far as being in all of his activities, no, I have not been in all of his activities, but I do work Monday through Friday, and she knows that. I tried to get him into Krav Maga. She wouldn't let me get him into Krav Maga because it was a conflict of scheduling. There's been times where I only had one opportunity to go to a camp out for the Boy Scouts or whatever, and then I also went to the graduation. But she tries to sound like I'm not there for my son when I'm there for my son every single weekend, every single time I get him. And yes, I do have a lot of help from my family with my grandpa, with my dad and his grandpa, and he spends a lot of time with his family out here. He has cousins, extended relatives out here, and as well as I'm currently also engaged, and he has a stepbrother that he's been with for 3 years. They've been together since they were 5 and 4 years old. So as far as him being torn away from the family that I have down here, as well as, everything that we have going on here, he went to one kindergarten, went to first and second grade at one school, and then he's going to switch schools a third time already, all on behalf of the plaintiff. Those are all her decisions, that he's going to go to 3 different schools because of her. I believe in that a kid should go to one school all the way through, then go to the next school, and go to the next school so they have stability. And that's why I don't think that it's a good fit for the move.
Anything else? Why you believe it's contrary to the child's best interest for the relocation to be granted?
Well, I know my son very well, and she put this in his head well before we even went to court on April 1st that he was moving to Utah, that it was set in stone, they're going to Utah. So she's played a huge...
Anything else that you believe is contrary to the child's best interest regarding the relocation to Utah?
I think it's emotionally going to ruin him, yes. I think that's my biggest issue, is that it's going to completely make him depressed. I know my son. And him not seeing me for several months out of the year is going to completely ruin him.
Anything else?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right. Closing argument?
Can I have a question to ask?
Go ahead.
Mr. Conn, you said you were currently engaged?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
who are you engaged to?
I'm engaged to somebody since November 13th, 2012.
Somebody have a name, sir, or is this an imaginary engagement that you have? Or are
Sorry,
you
sir.
just deciding to be evasive with answering the questions
Her name
while
is
you're
Heather
under oath?
Sarah. Her name is Heather Donovan Sarah Rowley.
Is that the same individual that filed the domestic violence charges against you back in March?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Anything else? Closing argument.
My client has been the primary physical custodian of the party's minor child since 2012. She's the one that's been taking care of basically the day-to-day needs. I believe that should remain the same, and the fact that he does have Mr. Conn has a domestic violence charge against him is one of the reasons why my client should maintain primary physical custody. The reasons for her move to Utah, as stated in her initial pleadings, was the fact that her husband is now being transferred, or has been transferred to the U.S., and Hill Air Force Base in Utah is not a far distance from Las Vegas. It's an opportunity for my client to be able to finally have one household with her husband, and for their son, for her son and dad's son to move up there with them, to be a family. She's looked into all of the possibilities regarding travel, whether to meet halfway, and understood that she would be responsible for these expenses, and is more than willing to provide that. She had and tried to make sure that dad does have sufficient time with with their son so as not to interfere or impede with his relationship with Dylan. They have extensive time, I believe it's probably close to 8 weeks for the summer, every spring break, alternating Thanksgiving, and then at least 1 week in during the winter time. And then also because of the proximity between Hill Air Force Base and here, there's plenty of opportunities for mom to come down here for 3-day weekends and such, and dad to see Dylan additional times. And there's also opportunity for dad to come up to to Utah anytime to see Dylan as well. I believe my client believes the move would be beneficial for both her and Dylan because of the fact that financially it will improve their lifestyle. Second of all, there's a lot of activities and things that Dylan has the opportunity to participate in. Also the neighborhood with regard to where it's located and all the children that are attending this school all live within a 1.5-mile radius, so there are a lot of children that will be there that he'll have an opportunity to enjoy time with. It's a small community, but it's a safe community based upon the research that my client has done and this evidence that we have provided in our trial book. Her motive is honorable, and as stated, she would be able to take care of and make sure that everything is afforded to her. And the only thing that she's requesting is that dad pay child support, so that would help to assist with taking care of Dylan as well as the travel expenses. And I believe that based upon his income from his financial disclosure form, I believe the child support was $450 a month. I think that's what I put in my pre-trial memo. $405. It's $405 and 54 cents per month. And then also at this point, I'm requesting attorney's fees. We've had over 3 months to try to attempt to resolve this issue. And due to delays, and as stated also in my pre-trial memo, with him not responding to discovery requests or any of the court's orders, there was a lot of work preparing for this trial. If we're ending this trial now, I can take a couple of hours off my time, but I had requested approximately $7,500 in attorney's fees.
Sir, closing argument?
I don't have anything, Your Honor.
The law, as it relates to the request for relocation, is established by the Nevada Supreme Court under the Flynn case, and the Jones case are the most recent that this court reviews. It requires that the primary physical custodian must meet an initial threshold of a good faith basis for the move, and then demonstrate an actual advantage for both the parent and the child. The court finds that the plaintiff is the primary physical custodian of the minor child, that the good faith basis for the move is met by virtue of the plaintiff's marriage to an active duty service member who has been stationed at Hill Air Force Base in northern Utah. As to the actual advantage for the primary custodian, she will realize an actual advantage by being allowed to reside with her husband, with the elimination of having to financially support 2 separate households. It will afford her the opportunity to serve, to act as a stay-at-home mother to the minor child. And actual advantages for the child. The child will realize smaller class sizes with the relocation. Will have the availability of a parent full-time during the day in a smaller community. The Schwartz factors also must be addressed, including the manner in which the move is likely to improve the quality of life of parent and child. In addition to the actual advantages previously stated, the court finds that the minor child will likely have an improvement in his quality of life from the change in the nature of the relationship, that the mother would be stay at home, the family would be united, that he will be in a smaller community with smaller class size and more personalized educational opportunities, and be able to continue the activities that he has here and have opportunities for increased activity in the community there. The court finds that the mother's motives are not intended to frustrate or limit the defendant's visitation, the court has heard nothing to make any adverse finding that she would not comply with visitation or court orders. The court finds that the non-custodial party's opposition was honorable, and that adequate alternative visitation does exist in this case. At that point, the burden shifts to the non-custodial parent to prove by concrete material reasons why the move is contrary to the child's best interests. The defendant has failed to present significant evidence to support that burden. Further, the plaintiff has raised an issue of domestic violence. The evidence contained in the exhibit number 10 shows that the defendant pled no contest to a domestic battery and was convicted of a domestic battery, even if the charge was reduced under the definitions under the VAWA statutes and under the state statutes in Nevada. The court finds that that is a significant factor. The court finds that it is in the best interests of the minor child that the request to relocate be granted. The request will be granted immediately. The child will remain with the father until 1 week prior to the start of school.
24th, August 24th.
Then the father will have the child until Monday the 17th. Mom will arrange for transportation. Either the child will be flown. If the child is to fly, the parents will be required to comply with the airline's requirements on unaccompanied minors, or mom would be responsible for assuring that the child is accompanied. The court is going to grant dad visitation as follows. He will have spring break each and every year, commencing the day the child is out of school until the evening before the child returns. He will have summer from 1 week after school lets out to 1 week prior to resumption of classes. He will have 1/2 of the winter break each and every year. Who had Christmas last year?
I did.
Okay. So Dad will have the 1/2 of the break that contains Christmas and Christmas Eve. In odd-numbered years, that's typically the first half, and intend the parties to pretty much split the break down the middle. And in even years, Dad will have the second half. He will be entitled to the Thanksgiving break in even years, commencing the day the child is out of school until the evening before classes resume. In addition to those times, Dad will have (21) additional days that can be exercised during the school year. The holidays and the visitation breaks that have already been listed would take precedence. Mom's 2 weeks during the summer, you won't be able to preempt those. These are intended to be used during the school year, during times, weekends. I encourage you to look at their schedule. There will be times when the kids are out of school. Utah has a week-long break in the fall. It used to be the deer hunt, but now, for PC reasons, it's called Utah Education Week.
Your Honor, I don't believe this school has it anymore.
Oh, I believe they have it. It's
They have it.
pretty much statewide. He'll look regardless, look at their calendar, see when the lengthier breaks are, or if you have a special event on a weekend, those will be your times, okay?
Okay.
Unless you get permission from Mom, you can't take the child out of school. But these are intended to be weekends, the 3-day weekends. I mean, he's going to have right of first refusal on all of the 3-day weekends. Labor Day, Memorial Day, all of them. You have to give 30 days advance notice on any of those when you're going to exercise those trips. Mom will be solely responsible for the transportation for spring break, summer break, winter break, and the even-year Thanksgiving breaks. Those will be your responsibility. As for these 21 additional days, the court will require that you either meet halfway in Beaver or that you split the costs associated with travel. If you wish to exercise additional visitation in the Ogden area on 30 days advance notice, you can do that as well. All right, child support. Sir, you're currently working.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you still with Elite Tactical?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your rate of pay?
13.
13 an hour?
Yes, sir.
And are you working full time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Child support will be set at $405 per month. That will be effective starting July. It'll be due on or before the last day of each month. The court, for these additional times, will grant a downward deviation to assist and defray the costs of the additional travel of $50 per month. Now, sir, are you the father of another child?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So the child support will be $355 a month. And as for the request for attorney's fees, the court's cognizant of the fact that that the defendant has there's been allegations made that he didn't adequately respond to discovery. By his own admission this morning, he did not prepare mandatory paperwork that was requested. However, based on the nature of the case, the necessity of an evidentiary hearing on these matters, the court would find it punitive to assess the entirety of the attorney's fees being requested. However, the court does recognize that additional labor was involved based on the lack of participation, based on the limited on the scant evidence produced by the defendant at the time of trial. The court's going to award the sum of $1,500. As in for attorney's fees, that amount will be reduced to judgment collectible by any lawful means. Ms. Roberts, you will include findings in there that satisfy the Brunzell factors. The court will review those and sign off on those. So don't go too wide-ranging in your lauding of yourself. Anything else, counsel, that I failed to address?
Nothing that you failed to address. There's just two things that my client is requesting a little, if we can work a little bit with two things for the summer. Number one, for the 4th of July, she's requesting that every other 4th of July, she's able to come down here to have the 4th of July, just that day or just that day, alternating every other year because it's Dylan's grandmother's birthday and grandfather's birthday, and that she would give Dad the additional extra day to make up for that on alternating 4th of Julys. And the other thing is that regarding the vacation, the 1 week before or after school ends and 1 week before, they will do their best to try to maintain that. However, because of her husband's request for leave, there might be times that he might not be able to get his vacation times at that point. And she would be requesting that if there's for some reason that they need a week in the middle of his time, that he would be able to make up the extra time at the end of the
If they can work that out, they can work that out. If not, they can come back here. As for the 4th of July, the court will grant her the 4th of July, just the day.
Just the day, and it's alternating years, not every year.
9 a.m. to 10 p.m. in even-numbered years. All right? You'll prepare the order?
I will.
All right, thank you. Good luck. We got our translator and everything.